power, all of it, the joys, the challenges, is the vehicle for our spiritual evolution and our spiritual growth. The mystic Hildegard de Bingen spoke of the green growing edges of our becoming and how we're all in this continual growth, spiritually unfolding process that takes us to the green growing edges of who and what we are becoming next as a fuller expression of God in human form, of God life in human form. So we're all meant to walk right up to that edge of our comfort zone. And we remember that at beyond that edge is the next addition and next expression of our divine life in this human experience. So I bet there's some area of your life right now where you are standing at the green growing edge of your next addition and next divine expression of life. Master Jesus reminded us that the kingdom of heaven is within, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven is within. And the Greek word oranos means expanding, expanding activity. So you have within you this ever expanding activity of God. Right now, God is ever growing in you. God is ever growing you. God is growing you now. God is growing me now. Say this with me. God is growing me now. God is growing in me now. God is growing me now. Our founder, Charles Fillmore, said that life is an ever-progressive upward spiral of conscious evolution. So here we are on the spiral of conscious evolution. And remember that whatever is up for you right now, please remember that the content of your life is the curriculum of your becoming. In other words, what's in the way is the way, is the way. Any setbacks, obstacles, closed doors are growth invitations to get bigger, to know that God is bigger than any setback, obstacle, or closed door. That God is bigger. God in you is bigger than any of those things. So let God get big in you. We've all been gifted with this life in a body. And if we think about it, in the womb, we had that assurance that all was provided for, because all was provided for to us for 9 months, right? And so we came into this world with this assurance that all we need is here, that God is always already. But somewhere along the way, we may have started to forget this and hear different messages from family, society, or the quote experts that what you have is not enough, what you are experiencing is not enough, or who you are is not enough, that desperado kind of energy that Blair was talking about. Of course, that is not the truth of her being. But in this forgetting, fear can take over and install these life-negating patterns that cultural anthropologist Angeles Arian, I really like her as a teacher. She's an educator. She passed a few years ago. Educator, author, cultural anthropologist Angeles Arian identified as 4 universal human addictions, which are unhelpful patterns of compulsive thought that underlie all addictions, whether to drugs, food, work, shopping, etc. So today we're going to look at those and look at some spiritual elixir to shift and to soothe the emotional cravings or whatever is up right now, to have some healing and connection for that part of us that might crave something outside of ourselves and outside of God. So the 4 universal human addictions are the addiction to intensity, the addiction to perfection, the addiction to knowledge or needing to know, and the addiction to focusing on what's not working versus what is working. So each of these can be a catalyst, though, when expressed through the wisdom and guidance of spirit, and can have a life affirming influence. For example, intensity can be when we turn up the dial on our enthusiasm and focus and be an innovator and something new can get created. Have you ever been so focused on creating something, having that intensity? Perfectionism, uh, when brought through spirit and wisdom, can be a commitment to excellence and persistence and providing quality and feeling good about your contribution. Knowledge or needing to know through the wisdom of spirit can be all about learning and growing and um, learning more for positive change. And then focusing on what's missing through spirit and wisdom can show up as knowing where to give support, how to make a contribution that's positive and helpful, and how to bring a greater sense of wholeness to our perspective or to acting in the world. I saw a couple of examples of this that I really that made me smile that I want to share with you. And one was about three Carlsbad High School students who um, wanted to help kids improve their coping skills during these time of COVID. And so they got a grant to do an improv comedy camps called Wing It, where they teach kids how to listen, how to take chances, how to not be afraid to fail, and how to flip a negative scenario into a positive one. So they saw a need, they saw something that was missing, and they stepped in with a beautiful creation and were supported financially with that. Another story I heard with this was a woman who saw a need to share food in her neighborhood, in her community. And she had a small garden. So on her driveway, she put a tarp and she just had cucumbers and tomatoes. But she put those out. And she put a sign that said, "Take what you need, leave what you can." By the end of the weekend, her driveway was filled with vegetables and some fruit that people were giving more than they were taking. So, expressing the spirit while embracing the human, seeing that need, but expressing the spirit, wonderful things can show up. So, but when they're, that's the positive side. So, but when they're an addiction, it's a whole different story, right? Something that's an addiction rules your mind, rules your thoughts. It's exhausting, anxiety producing, can't see the big picture, and may leave us feeling disconnected from God, from self, from others. So today we're shining the light of awareness on these. And if you find yourself or notice any of these addictions coming up, these qualities as addictions coming up in your life, to know that you can shift. You can shift back to center, back to God. And even affirm, I give this addiction to God. I release any need to continue this addiction, to let it go. Because we know that with God, all things are possible. So we're going to look at these today and then have some life affirming affirmations to follow up. So the first of the four addictions, the addiction to intensity or drama. Some symptoms are a low tolerance for inactivity or routine. We may get bored easily, can't stand the quiet, peaceful times in our lives, and just have to stir things up to feel alive. I also want to mention that these addictions are really easy to see in other people, but sometimes hard to see when they show up in our own lives. With this addiction, the saying that comes to mind is, if you can be offended, you will be. And with every addiction, there's a little payoff. And with this one, the payoff is getting attention or sympathy or that adrenaline rush. Usually the drama involves some fearful situation. Scott Grace, who has been to Unity churches, had a parody or a little satire about the 7 habits. He called 7 habits of highly dramatic people. And he had affirmations for good drama. I'll share a couple. Every day in every way, I'm stressing out over everything, real or imagined. Cancel, cancel. And I always have everything I need to manifest everything I don't want, and all is hell in my world. Cancel, cancel, cancel. But you get the idea that with the addiction to drama, that can be what's running in the back of the mind. So we can shift that, and we will. And right now, expressing the spirit here, we can affirm, I now accept all of the rhythms in my life, even the quiet times. I'll say that again and invite you to join me. I now accept all of the rhythms in my life, even the quiet times. Once more. I now accept all of the rhythms of my life, even the quiet times. The second, the addiction to perfection, is having a low tolerance for mistakes or vulnerability. Can anyone relate to this one? Some symptoms of this addiction is we're very hard on ourselves, and we can work ourselves to exhaustion over every minute detail. It's not good enough for a project to be finished or even good. It must be perfect, as if our perfection will get us the love we seek. I think I've had this one. I can remember as a kid, I was babysitting. I think I was about 12, and the kids were sleeping. My siblings were sleeping, and I wanted the house clean for my parents, and so I picked up all the crumbs on the floor by hand because I didn't want to run the vacuum and wake the kids up. And when they walked through the door, boy, I wanted them to notice right away, but of course they did not. So with this one, it's not enough for a project to be finished or even good. It must be perfect, as if our perfection will get us the love we seek. And that's what I was seeking. I noticed that time. And like every addiction, it has its initial payoff or temporary fix. We may receive appreciation or pats on the back, but if we don't get that, we try even harder, seeking that external approval rather than going within to God, where we are always loved and always accepted. With this addiction to perfection, we can also be very hard on others as well and have high, unrealistic expectations or be very critical of them. And instead of winning love and friendships, this compulsion tends to push others away. So we can shift that. If you notice that coming up, you can shift that. And expressing the spirit here, let us affirm, I am made in God's image, perfect already. I am loved and I am enough. I am made in God's image, perfect already. I am loved and I am enough. And say this with me. I am made in God's image, perfect already. I am loved and I am enough. The next addiction I can relate to. It's the addiction to knowledge or needing to know. And so with this, when this becomes an addiction, we've seen that these all have positive aspects when channeled through spirit, guidance, and wisdom. But when it's an addiction, it shows up as a negative energy. And so with this one, there's a low tolerance for the unexpected and uncertainty. We don't like surprises. Well, everyone's gotten a surprise or two, or maybe 100 during these last few months, right? We like to know what's going to happen, when, how, where, why, and loose ends really bother us. Of course, the payoff is that we can feel very smart when we figure something out. I used to love reading mystery books, trying to figure it out. And it was so satisfying, it having those loose ends tied at the end. What drives this addiction is the compulsive desire to understand, but not just understand, but to control. Because if we feel like we can predict something and control something, then we can protect ourselves and not get hurt again. I saw a bumper sticker that said, "If God is your co-pilot, switch seats." So if you notice that showing up, we can come back to center, come back to the truth of who we are, and know that there's a spiritual expression of this, of growing in our comfortability with being in the mystery and gaining that patience and flexibility, taking life as it comes, and embracing life, trusting God, embracing life versus bracing for life, embracing life, knowing that we live, move, and have our being in God mind, in God life, embracing that. Stephen Hawking said, "The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it's the illusion of knowledge." The illusion of knowledge. This is a good one to keep in mind while watching TV or watching the news. Is it knowledge or the illusion of knowledge? Is it fact or is it someone's opinion? Is it a prediction or has it happened? Is it happening? The news is always a good place to increase our prayer life and also to hone our ability of discernment. What is true? What is not true? So we find this one popping up, we can return to center, expressing the spirit, and affirm, "If I need to know, God will let me know. If I need to know, God will let me know." Say this with me. If I need to know, God will let me know. If I need to know, God will let me know. Last week, I went on a digital sabbatical. No news, no drama. And I got to camp for a bit and sleep on the earth and listen to the crickets. And that was such a healing balm. I felt my natural rhythm coming back. So know that we can come back to center, to your natural rhythm, your God rhythm. That God rhythm is already breathing you, already beating your heart, every breath, every heartbeat. And we can tune into that natural God rhythm at any time. I like this affirmation too from Richard Rieger. "The mind that knows how is showing me now. The mind that knows where is leading me there. The mind that knows when will tell me then." That's a good one to affirm. I'll say that again. The mind that knows how is showing me now. The mind that knows where is leading me there. The mind that knows when will tell me then. Because when we need to know something, we will know it. So the fourth and final addiction is the addiction to what's missing. Focus in this This means focusing on what's not working, what you don't have, what's wrong with everything, when in truth, and think about it, even in these um, times of change, these COVID times, these times of political, the word that comes to mind is boiling. You know, things are heating up and boiling in society with politics, so much going on in the world. Even with all of this, if you think about your life, would you say what percentage of it is working? 90 to 99%, perhaps? So, despite all that we have to be thankful for, there's an older part of the brain that has a quote negativity bias, survival mode that's alert for predators and dangers. And it's interesting that other animals usually don't stress over being hyper vigilant. But there's part of the human mind that can go to this and blow things out of proportion. Of course, with this addiction, there's initial payoff of connecting with others who want to share the ancient, awful version of whatever particular topic you're on. And remember, this is a very different energy than noticing what's missing and working together for positive change to fill in more goodness, resource, connection, harmony um, for um, for people. This is the flip side of this. And we all may have had periods where we've been here, but usually it's too painful to stay here, right? So back to spirit, remembering who we truly are. Embracing the human, expressing the spirit. I see with spiritual vision to notice what's missing and to fill it with God's love. I have spiritual vision to notice what's missing and fill it with God's love. Say this with me. I have spiritual vision to notice what's missing and fill it with God's love. God's love in action. So also with embracing the human, to embrace something, we need to see what it is and to put our spiritual arms around it. Even when these addictions, these desperado addictions show up, the addiction to intensity, to perfection, to needing to know, to focusing on what's missing, these are all come out of fear. But we know we have the ability to shift that at any moment. When intensity, feel that showing up, shifting spiritually to channel it into a focus of persistence for positive change, positive creations that not only bless us in the giving, but bless others in the receiving. When that addiction to perfection shows up, to breathe, to shift it, to let it mellow into an intention for excellence and feeling good about our contributions. I am enough. I give enough. I know enough. I do enough. God is enough in me. God is here expressing as me. When the addiction to knowledge or needing to know shows up, to take it to spirit, to be spiritually informed, to discern, to be spiritually guided and directed. And when that what's not working, to shift into what is working. And when we notice what isn't working, to let it be a catalyst to bring more God love into the world, more kindness, more blessing, more divine ideas, more of God's love in action. So here we are, embracing the human, expressing the spirit, knowing that this human life is our joy and our journey on our spiritual journey. So now Blair will lead us in a song for meditation.
Oh, yeah, I took notes. I liked that idea about turning those addictions around. Very nice, very nice. So this is a song called Kabir's Song. Kabir was a mystic, sort of like Rumi in the 15th century. And this song is as if that spiritual part of ourselves, that Christ part of ourselves, is singing to the human part, saying, "You're going through all this stuff, breathe, breathe." So, Kabir's Song. Oh, my soul, you come and you go through the paths of time and space, and in useless play you'll not find a way, so set your course and go. Sing such a song with all of your life that you'll never have to sing again. Love such a one with all of your heart that you'll never have to love again. Oh, my soul, you come and you go through the paths of time and space, and in useless play you'll not find a way, so set your course and go. Walk such a path with all of your faith that you'll never have to wander again. Give yourself to such a belief that you'll never have to seek again. Oh, my soul, you come and you go through the paths of time and space. In useless play you'll not find a way, so set your course and go. Breathe, my love, breathe, my love, breathe in the quiet center. Breathe, my love, breathe, my love, breathe in the quiet center. Breathe, my love, breathe, my love, breathe in the quiet center. Breathe.
Thank you, Blair. Let's continue in that energy of breathing into the quiet center. And I invite you to close your eyes and let that next breath be deep and full and refreshing. Letting go of anything you don't need right now. And breathing into the quiet center that is right here, right now. Relaxing more into this body that is a living temple of spirit. And in this living temple, it is safe to rest, safe to breathe, and safe to be. We were created from this great love of God. Divine love fills our very cells, the very tissues of our bodies. With each breath, we inhale that love, that life-affirming sustenance, freely given and fully received. Connected to the infinite well of life through the breath. Visualize now this breath, your breath, God breath, coursing through your body, enlivening every muscle, every joint, every system, every fiber of your being alive with divine life. Allow this holy breath to invigorate any area of your body that may be calling your attention. Let it embrace divine life, welcoming divine life. Allow this breath of life, this divine life, to free any area of constriction and to soothe and restore peace, balance, safety to your whole being, to your whole living temple of spirit. And each breath, letting that love rush in as we rest in the holy mystery that breathes us in this moment. In this moment. For a few moments now in the silence. Now returning our attention to the room, let us give thanks for this human journey, knowing that Spirit is always expressing this love in the quiet center of our hearts, in this body that is the living temple of Spirit. And so may we proceed through this day strengthened, uplifted, and aware of God's unfailing love and ever-present support. And with grateful hearts, we say, thank you, God. Amen. So thank you for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you next time. And now Blair will lead us in our closing song.
Well, before I do that, just a reminder to everybody, if you'd like to financially support Unity of Carlsbad, you can do that. You can go online to their website, and you can do it there, or send them a check to their P.O. box. Either way. So we'll do the prayer for protection. We'll start with the light of God that surrounds me. And just a little background, James Diller Freeman wrote this during World War II, because there were requests from families to be praying for the troops overseas. And so eventually a copy of it got to General George Patton, and once he saw it, he said, "I want every soldier in the Second Army to have a copy of this." So it was quite a blessing for a lot of people. The light of God surrounds me. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. Wherever I am, God is. And now think of someone that you want to sing this for. The light of God surrounds you. The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. Wherever we are, God is. And now for everybody, the light of God surrounds us. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever